I'm Dorthy Skye, President of the League of Women Voters of the Northwoods and moderator for this evening's candidate forum. And I welcome you to the Boulder Junction Supervisor Candidates Forum, sponsored by the League of Women Voters of the Northwoods and hosted by the Boulder Junction Library. Thanks to Sherry Anderson, the library director, who helped with the setup, and to the volunteers and friends of the library who did the refreshments. Special thanks to the Lakeland Union High School students that are in the media productions class, their teacher, Mr. Yonke, and the students would give a wave when I say your name. Elsa, Mason, and Zach. Let's give them a hand. And thanks to you conscientious voters who are here to inform your viewpoints about important issues facing your town and to hear firsthand from the town board candidates. The League of Women Voters of the Northwoods begins our forums with the League's mission statement, which I will quote. The League of Women Voters, a nonpartisan political organization, encourages informed and active participation in government, works to increase understanding of major policy issues, and influences public policy through education and advocacy. Now, I must explain up front, you all hopefully saw it in the latest press release, that we had to cancel the clerk-treasurer portion of this forum. That's because one of the candidates unfortunately had a death in the family and couldn't attend. That would have left just one candidate to speak, and that runs contrary to the guidelines of the League of Women Voters for any candidate forums that we sponsor. It would also potentially get us into hot water with election law, the Federal Election Commission, the Federal Communications Commission, and the IRS. So with that, we will proceed with this opportunity to inform your votes for the Boulder Junction supervisors, candidates, who will appear on your ballot on the 2nd of April. The candidates are, in alphabetical order, Laura Birch, give a little wave, James Galloway, Denny McGann, and Charlie Spencer. And I want you to notice the stands that have their name cards on those. Yeah, those are hand-hewn cedar custom-made stands, and they also have symbolic meaning because. I don't know about you folks, but for me, for a lot of years, I was just a bump on a log as far as being an active participant in local government. Well, these folks aren't bumps on a log, they're standing up. Their courage and conviction has moved them to offer to serve us, to serve our best interests, and to serve on our behalf. And so we thank you. And with that, candidates, take a deep breath. And we will proceed, and simply tell us about your qualifications, your ideas, and your plans, and answer the audience questions about how you would govern. I'll review the procedures that you all got as a handout. Audio or video recording of the forum by anyone not authorized by the league is prohibited, including by cell phone, so turn off your cell phones. We do have the official recording from the Lakeland High School students, and we also have Brian from the Lakeland Times. We've authorized the library to upload the video recording in its entirety on its YouTube channel. It will be accessible on the library's Facebook page and website. Also, the town of Boulder Junction will share the link to the YouTube video. So anybody who couldn't be here tonight or wants to review things, you've got access to it. We will begin with opening statements, and because of the cancellation of the clerk treasurer part, we've got a little leeway as far as time. So by unanimous consent, the candidates have asked that their opening statements be allowed up to 2 minutes. And we have our timers, our faithful timers in the front row with their cards. Okay, show the card. So when there's 30 seconds left, the orange card goes up. Red card means stop. So regretfully, they will tell you, but firmly, they will compel you to please stop. So after the opening statements of 2 minutes, we will have questions from the audience. We've collected those ahead of time and categorized them. And anybody who has additional questions or follow-up questions, Susan has got more cards and pens, and Deb, so we got you covered, don't hesitate. After the question portion, we'll have closing statements of 60 seconds, and we will take a break a little ways through for snacks and stretch and so forth. I will rotate the order of response by the candidates so that the same candidate is not asking or is not answering in the same order in each round. Feel free, folks, candidates, to ask me to repeat questions. Occasionally, I might use the moderator's right to extend the time allowed for each candidate to answer a question, and that's if there's multiple part questions. I also maintain the right to ask a follow-up question if a response is vague, unclear, or too general. And remember, you audience folks, you can ask follow-up questions too. While speaking, the candidates are expected to refrain from personal attacks and to adhere to the time limits. If an audience question is directed to a particular candidate, all the other candidates will then be given the opportunity to respond to the question. If a candidate makes a specific reference to another candidate, that other person will have 30 seconds to respond. So with that, we will begin with the opening statements, and let's start at that end of the table with Laura.
Can you hear me? No. It's on. There we go. It just needed to get warm. Okay, good evening, everybody. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for Wisconsin for their coordination of this event tonight. I have invested 49 years in this town, 30 years of vacationing, and 19 years as a resident. I have over 40 years of banking, including branch manager and district officer, which involved customer support, problem solving, planning, and budgeting. I believe in transparency, open discussions, and oversight of all town operations. I want an open town government for Boulder Junction, as you do. In selecting the new board, keep in mind the strengths and experience of the new candidates to have a well-balanced and more productive town board. My strengths are in organizational detail, operational procedures, follow-up, budgeting, and planning, which would balance the other candidates' strengths, either Jim or Charlie, who have their own experiences and knowledge, like the fire department experience they both share. I have a long list of things I want to help the town board with, especially completing items not done and getting away from consultants when we can do the research ourselves. We should only hire consultants if we can't do the work ourselves. I plan to meet more frequently with the rest of the town board for better communication and planning and to accomplish more. In summary, I continue to need your support again to pass this final hurdle, and so please vote for me on April 2nd. I pledge to do my very best for our town. Thank you for listening.
Hi. Hello, can you hear me? Okay. Hello, I'm Jim, and first I want to thank the league for sponsoring this event and the library and all of you folks for coming out and participating and offering questions. My background begins in Illinois, where I completed my education, and that was followed by 3 years of military service. I was then employed by 3M Company for 7 years in a technical and a marketing capacity, followed by 10 years of corporate management experience in 2 tech corporations. I was then able to purchase a business in Boulder Junction, and I have 24 years of local business ownership and operation, followed by 15 years of management experience in government as Vilas County's Emergency Management Director and Employee Safety Director. My management experience in both business and government will enable me to consider town issues and opportunities from a varied perspective. And this government experience includes 15 years of both conducting and participating in open meetings, public records retention, and public information release. I believe our town's government has underperformed in just this capability, as well as has had inaction in other issues that are both significant and concerning. I believe my experience will enable me, while working with others, to improve the town's performance in these and other areas. And that's my reason for running.
Well, good evening. Thank you to the League of Women Voters and to the library for hosting the event. And thank all of you for joining us this evening with your questions. Hopefully we'll find this a productive evening. I'm Denny McGann. I'm the co-owner of McGann's Pub and Wine Bar, located in downtown Boulder Junction. We're entering our 10th year. I co-own the business with my wife, Ellen. We're originally from the Chicago area. We vacationed in Boulder Junction for 23 years, and we decided to open a business here and live here. So we've been here since 2009. My background, I graduated with a bachelor's degree in business administration and marketing. I spent 30 years in sales and executive management positions with working in the wireless data communication, supply chain, logistics management. Basically got fed up with the corporate world and decided to come to Boulder Junction and open a friendly business. So I've been on the town board now for 8 years. I've served 4 terms. I'm running again. I still question myself sometimes, but we haven't quite finished what we got started. I said that 2 years ago, and we still haven't finished some things. So I want to see the things that we've got started through, and I'm anxious to hear your questions tonight and respond to what's on your mind. That's been my goal since I've been on the board. Thank you.
Good evening, and again, thank you for all coming out tonight.
and thank you to the League of Women's Voters for sponsoring this forum. I'm going to drop a little bit of a bombshell here right now. At this time, I would like to announce my withdrawal for the position of supervisor for the town of Boulder Junction. After much reflection, there are 2 reasons for my withdrawal. First, I have recently experienced some healthcare issues and need to focus on that for the immediate future. Secondly, is that I strongly believe Laura, Jim, and Dan would be excellent candidates that, if elected, would work their hearts out to do what's best for Boulder Junction going forward. I have decided to support Laura Birch and Jim Galloway for the supervisor positions. I will also be supporting Dan Driscoll for clerk treasurer. I firmly believe that the town of Boulder Junction is in desperate need for change. The last several years I've experienced watching our town government go from having an excellent rating for open government by the Lakeland Times to giving our town board a F- rating for open and honest governance. I do not ever recall any other town government receiving this rating. I have also experienced seeing our community becoming divided more than I ever thought possible. Our community has divided itself into tight cliques, issue by issue. We deserve and need a new group of representatives that will work to reverse this troubling trend. Over the many years I have lived and raised my family here, I have observed the following. In 1975, when I moved here, the foundation of our economy was tourism. In respect to that, it still is. However, the market has changed dramatically. The demographics of our community have changed. We have always been a community dependent on tourism as the backbone of our economic survival. When I first moved here in 1975, we had numerous resorts, many fishing guides, and a robust hunting business in the fall. It was this time that our snowmobiling became part of our winter season. Prior to then, you might as well have rolled up the streets in the winter.
Charlie?
Okay, just final statement. I'm asking my supporters to vote for Laura, Jim, and Dan.
All right, thank you.
At this time, should I leave the podium? I think I should.
I reckon so. So we'll proceed with the Q&A part of this. Folks submitted questions ahead of time. We asked you to sign your name to those questions, simply to take ownership. When you write your name on something, it influences your thoughts and your word choice. But be reassured that those questions will all go to, the cards will all go to me afterwards, and I will shred them. And after that, they will be accessible only to my chickens. Because I use shredded paper to line their nesting boxes. And I imagine them reading little tidbits while they lay eggs. So, let's go with the Q&A. And for this, Jim will start with you, and then go to Denny, and then Laura, okay? And you've got 60 seconds. What is your vision for keeping Boulder Junction progressive, but still a small town? Quaint.
Well, the vision is many faceted. First, we have to recognize a point that Charlie just made a few minutes ago, and that is the demographic here is changing. This is no longer just a resort town. It is, in fact, a town that welcomes visitors for a short term and has a high degree of non-resident homeowners who are here for most of the summer. So the nature of the business community needs to adjust to provide those services. And I'm already running out of time here, but I think we have to engage in some comprehensive long-range planning. We have to recognize these changes that are taking place and prepare our community to respond to them. That's it for me.
Charlie, you're up.
Denny.
Or Denny, I'm sorry, Denny, you're up.
Could you repeat that question, please?
What is your vision for keeping Boulder Junction progressive, but still small-town quaint?
Well, as far as my vision for keeping Boulder Junction progressive, I think it's imperative that we stay on a track to bring broadband to our community. And with broadband, we'll bring increased economic development and business opportunities for people that want to open a business here. Our lakes and our rivers and promotion and working with tourism and working with the Vilas County Chamber as well as our own chamber, I think is a critical component of just reinforcing the community that we live in. And that's what I would suggest we do.
I would say that working with the Economic Development Committee has given me a bigger picture of what needs to be done with the broadband and our tourism. The Department of Tourism has invested a lot of money in the marketing for our visitors in the state for this upcoming budget. And for the high-speed internet, the Governor Evers' budget plan has been increased to $78 million up until 2025. So that should help with the broadband. But I think our chamber, our economic development, and the board need to be focused on what this town is doing and needs for the individuals as well as the businesses. Thank you.
Excuse me, next question is regarding ATVs, and we've kind of categorized the questions. And so the card sorters are trying to give me the best questions in each category. So we combined a couple about the ATVs. And Denny, you'll start this time. If elected, will you honor the survey results of the majority of Boulder Junction electors and taxpayers who recently answered the ATV-UTV survey question by indicating that they do not want ATV-UTV access to Boulder Junction via county highways and their use on town roads or town lands? Do you value quiet in wild areas? Is it beneficial for Boulder Junction to lose business from bicyclists and hikers in order to gain business from ATVers?
Well, Dorothy, I'm going to answer this question, and hopefully you'll understand and the audience here will understand. Upon the advice of our attorney, the Wisconsin Towns Association attorney, and the Department of Justice, we actually have a quorum here this evening with myself as an elected official, the chairman, and a supervisor. So I will refuse to answer any questions this evening as it relates to ATVs because it could be construed as me violating the Open Meetings Act, and I do not want to violate the Open Meetings Act in a public meeting such as this. So I will not answer that.
Okay. Laura?
The first, would you repeat the questions?
Sure.
Just the first part of it.
If elected, will you honor the survey results of the majority of Boulder Junction electors and taxpayers who recently answered the ATV-UTV survey question by indicating that they do not want ATV-UTV access to Boulder Junction via county highways or their use on town roads or town land? Do you value quiet in wild areas? And is it beneficial for Boulder Junction to lose business from bicyclists and hikers in order to gain business for ATVers?
First of all, we don't know that we would lose business because of the ATVers. And I think what we need to do is have a comprehensive data gathering to get the facts before we can make an informed decision. I understand what the public the majority of the public answered in the survey. However, that's only one facet of what we have to consider in making a decision about the ATVs. And I think we need to involve the public. I think we need to gather data from all sources and make an informed decision. Thank you. And I do value quiet lands, and I do love this area. Thanks.
I think we all value quiet. We all value our ability to enjoy the environment, but we all tend to enjoy it in different ways. If you look at this issue from a historical perspective, Boulder Junction has prospered by embracing all forms of recreation. Some we have limited to keep them from interfering with others, but we have not told individuals how they can recreate in our community. I think we have to continue in that vein and welcome others, even if we don't think that their form of recreation is exactly what we want. But we have to do it in an intelligent way. We have to find a way to accommodate one user group without overly interfering with another. I think the survey results were not really definitive. They were narrow in many respects, and I think had the survey included one more question, another option, it would have been different.
Okay, very good. Denny, you threw me off. Is it your turn to answer first?
I went first the last time. Yep.
So we're back to Laura.
I'll be happy to go first again.
You'll get to go first soon. Are proper and adequate checks and balances and financial management practice in place in Boulder Junction? What changes are needed?
I don't believe all the checks and balances are in place. What changes would be needed would be possibly splitting the clerk treasurer position to have adequate checks and balances with the treasury part of the town. We need to be more visible with what we're doing. Transparent, I guess is the word, with these signs, with what we're doing and why we're doing it. And I think that would be better. I think the town board needs to take a real active role in the checks and balances for the town as oversight for what's going on. Thank you.
Just repeat the question, please.
Are proper and adequate checks and balances and financial management practices in place? And what changes are needed?
Well, no, I don't think they are. At the December 19th, 2017 meeting, the internal controls were acted on and have not been, the internal controls that were suggested at the meeting were acted on, but have not been fully implemented. And I think we need to complete that implementation. I think an important check and balance will be separation of the treasurer and the clerk functions. And I think that will make our financial situation more visible to the public. It will ease the financial reporting, and it will provide better documentation for what we're doing.
Well, the simple answer to your first question there is, are there adequate checks and balances in place? And the answer to that is yes. We are in complete compliance with respect to the road plan and the bond that we issued for that particular plan. So as far as that, the appropriate checks and balances are in fact in place. So that answer is yes. As far as what could be done, it's been talked about, and it's been voted on several times, and I suspect it will come up again, the splitting of the clerk treasurer position, because that comes up, we're audited every year. And we also do have a AA bond rating right now. You don't earn a AA bond rating, but for fiscal management. So I'm proud of the AA bond rating that we have. And if the public, it's up to the public, decide to split the clerk treasurer position, you can do that in April. If you think that's necessary, then that's when it should be done. Thanks.
And what do you know? Our next question on financial matters is, what can we do to reduce the cost of the town clerk position? Eliminate or greatly reduce the use of an accounting firm? What else? What do you think of those two suggestions? And do you have any others? And Jim, you start with this.
Well, I think separating the position would be the first step. And I think implementing some basic management practices would be an advisable step. Currently, we have difficult to track records, difficult to track ordinances, and difficult to locate policies. We have not organized our town's information in a way that is easily searchable and easily postable to a website. I think we can reduce workload by having more information available to the public and accessible easily to the public, to reduce the number of inquiries that are made, to reduce the number of information requests that are made, and the work associated with those things.
Can you repeat?
Oh, no, is it going to me, or is, now I'm losing.
It goes to you.
It goes to me. Yeah, repeat the first part of that, please.
What can we do to reduce the cost of the town clerk position and eliminate or greatly reduce the use of the accounting firm?
Well, I don't really think there's much you can do to reduce the cost of the clerk. That ship sailed at the meeting, so that her salary's set. The clerk's salary's set, or whoever gets elected in April. In terms of reducing the cost of accounting, we're obliged. We have two municipal bonds. We have one for this building that we're all sitting in. And we have another municipal bond for the $5 million road project. And those accounting procedures and that audit has to take place every year, because that's a requirement of the bond. So in terms of reducing accounting costs, and somebody thinking they can do this from a pontoon boat with a part-time position, they're crazy. All right.
Okay.
Laura?
Over the last couple of years, we did a study on the clerk treasurer position, and what we found is in other towns, the clerk does her own work and they do not hire the accounting services. So it can be done if the clerk handles her own record keeping and creates her own reports. That would be something that I would ask the clerk to do. In splitting the position, that would be a separation of powers, but it's the clerk's duty to do that job and post that information on the computer and print out the reports. And I think that some of that accounting cost could be cut if the person who is the clerk could do that job better and more complete. Thank you.
Very good. And this question, we'll start with Denny.
Okay.
What do you plan to do to improve transparency in regards to decisions, spending, and open discussions?
This question seems to come up frequently. And quite frankly, I guess I'm gonna sit here and say, I don't know how we could be much more transparent than we are. I've served on this board for 8 years. All of our meetings are posted properly. We have a public comment section in our agenda, which is not required. Our financials are always available. So I'm not too sure how much more, I really don't understand how we can be much more transparent than we are. If somebody has a suggestion of what we're doing wrong, I'd be more than happy to listen to that, because I don't know how we could be much more transparent.
I believe discussions in the public town meetings, problem solving in public, doing research and reporting back to the rest of the board, asking the clerk to improve the content of the minutes, and to issue draft minutes within maybe a week or so of the meeting so that they can be put on the website. Publish them on the website as draft minutes for the public to view. Review the year-to-date budget. Just with the financials, limit the use of the consent agenda to only recurring monthly items and listing those over 1,000, like Dennis speaks about in the meeting, but putting them on the agenda, because they could be approved or disapproved as separate items. Asking for the treasurer's report showing fund balances and using technology to bring the information up on a screen, or we could use constant contact to communicate with the members and the town people. Okay, thank you. I won't turn it off.
Well, I think we have underperformed in the area of transparency, and I think we should ensure that we follow the open meetings body of law without exception. And that would ensure that all discussion takes place in a public venue in front of our voters. We should encourage public input during board meetings in the manner prescribed by the Wisconsin DOJ Open Meetings Law Compliance Guide. And I'll say that again, we should encourage public input. Before approving the minutes of any meeting, we should ensure that they are complete and accurate as an accounting of the meeting. And if you've reviewed our minutes, you'll see that often they're not as complete as they might be. Ensure that written material used by board supervisors in their deliberations are available to the public upon request. Ensure that a budget review is an agenda item for all regular town board meetings. And use these actions to build consensus supporting town board decisions.
Okay, regarding emergency services, and Laura, you're up first on this one. What is your position on obtaining full-time police public safety presence in Boulder Junction?
We had a meeting about 2 years ago in the spring with the electors, and they wanted to investigate further a part-time position. I don't see the need for a full-time police officer, but some sort of presence would be nice. Whether it's a constable or a Vilas County part-time officer, we never followed through on investigating the rest of that and having further discussion on it. So I think that's something that should be investigated to see if there is value for our town. Thank you.
By state statute, a municipality or a town is not required to provide police presence. However, there are other ways to accomplish it besides a full-time officer. And some of them may be an economy of sorts. We can work through the sheriff's department to have a deputy assigned to Boulder Junction on a rotation that the town agrees on. We can also contract the sheriff's department so that a deputy who's in the area could enforce a town ordinance, or we can appoint a constable. But we are going through a codification process with our ordinances, and when that's complete, we will have enforcement enforceable ordinances, but we will not have the means to enforce them unless we have a police presence within the town. And we must also have a municipal judge and a court to enforce those ordinances.
Well, as far as, was the question around public safety or emergency? I'm trying to-
What is your position on obtaining full-time police public safety presence in Boulder Junction?
I don't think it's necessary. That's my answer.
I have to make a comment here. I have to compliment the audience and the citizens who have gathered here tonight. As I look around, you're all paying attention. You showed up. You're asking great questions. And regarding public safety, for our first forum that we held here a couple of years ago, I was warned that there were a lot of contentious issues, that things could get out of hand. And so I paid a visit ahead of time to the Vilas County Sheriff, and he obliged by sending one of his deputies by for that forum. And the deputy came back to the room, and badges and uniform displayed. Nobody seemed to pay attention. The conversation was proceeding very alertly and civilly, just like tonight's. And pretty soon he just waved at me
And left.
and went on his way. So I compliment your attentiveness and your civility. And we'll have a couple more questions and then take a break. On from public safety, or another aspect of public safety, the fire department. And Jim, you'll be up first this time. Over the past 4 to 6 years, why has the fire department membership declined? And how can this be improved?
Fire department membership has declined with volunteer departments across the entire country. It's not just Boulder Junction. Demographic changes and societal pressures and financial pressures have reduced the pool of people who can afford the time and the effort to volunteer. How we address this is an ongoing discussion at many levels. Some form of enticement to aid recruitment and retention of our volunteers is necessary. It may take various forms. Right now, your county government has an ad hoc committee that's investigating 2 issues, and one of those issues is going to involve meeting with fire departments and asking their opinion on how recruitment and retention can be improved and how the county might assist in that. And I have the stop sign.
As a current board member, and I have been the liaison for the town board with the Boulder Junction Fire Department, I work very closely with them and I do attend their meetings. This is it's not just as Jim mentioned, it's not just a Boulder Junction issue. This is really throughout the country, not just throughout the state. But I've met with Arborvitae, Presque Isle, some of the other neighboring fire departments, and it's a similar issue that we have across the board. And I know our group right now is working on some different things with social media and some other things, but it's difficult because there's a financial issue here too, and it's that the training requirements is much stricter and they have to adhere to that. So it is something that needs to be addressed, and our guys are trying to work on it, guys and gals. But it is an ongoing issue, and I don't see a real quick fix for it.
Well, I agree with Denny and Jim about it being an ongoing issue. I believe that They need support. They need us to listen. And I believe that Jim has the experience in this case to understand what they're going through and from a broader perspective with Vilas County. I think they need to work through issues, work through bonds. Okay, I'm getting signs. Which would be helpful for them. Their training is extensive in some cases, but not always required in others. And I'm not fully versed in that as well as Jim would be. Thank you.
Okay, we've addressed public safety and fire protection. I think it's time to care for public nutrition and public comfort. So we're going to take a 5-minute break. The bathrooms. Oh, yeah, and if you have more questions, the gals with the cards are ready to pass them out. The library volunteer and friends, refreshments are over there. Help yourselves. And the bathrooms are out that way. 5 minutes. Stretch your legs. Okay, folks, let's please reconvene. You can bring your
Yeah, well,
refreshments to your seat.
all right. Check the agenda for the next meeting. That's all I can say, yeah.
And Denny, I think it's your turn.
Yeah, okay, yeah, no problem.
It's freezing.
Yeah, that's well, you're right by the door. That's usually when we have the other meeting. We're sitting right in front of the door, so. Yeah, just a tip, you never want to come in. Freezing here.
We're not going to get through everybody's questions tonight. As I said, we tried to categorize them and pick the best one and the best one or two in a category. If you have a question or a follow-up question that you don't think was answered adequately, I would suggest you address those to the candidates, or if you have a question for a particular candidate, that you ask that individual afterwards. So with that,
Who's first?
and again, Denny, you're up
Yep.
first this time. Do you think the town should play a part in the expansion of high-speed internet throughout the township?
Absolutely. I have
How are you
been,
gonna do that?
banging the drum for broadband since I ran 8 years ago. That's how I spent my career, working in wireless communications. We have not had we're working towards a real solid strategy right now. I'm going to applaud the efforts of the Economic Development Committee under the stewardship of Dennis Ostick. He's doing a grand job. We need to stay focused with the work that the Economic Development Committee is doing and working closely with the folks at CenturyTel. We had a meeting where they participated. I think we're headed in the right direction, but we absolutely have to stay on course. We have to be aggressively proceeding down this path. It's critical to our economic future.
Laura?
Would you repeat that again, please?
Sure. Do you think the town should play a part in the expansion of high-speed internet throughout the township? And if so, how?
Okay. Yes, I do believe we should play a huge role in that. I've been on the Economic Development Committee for 3 years, and recently, through the help of Steve Kuhn and Dennis Ostick in the leadership of our committee, we did have the meeting Denny's just spoke about, and it was a wonderful meeting with a lot of information. We are learning, and the more we learn, the better we'll get. So I think it's very, very important that we continue that path. Governor Evers, as I said before, is investing 78 million in grants over the next 7 years. So that will help, and the applying for those grants will be very important. Thank you.
Well, yes, we should. High-speed internet is critical to many aspects of our town and our ability to grow. We talked earlier about comprehensive planning, adjusting to a new business environment. High-speed internet, as Dennis pointed out, would be critical to that. We can continue to support the efforts of our Economic Development Committee. We can explore grant opportunities. And we should ask about experiences other communities have had and how they have created a broadband network within their towns. Land Lakes, for example, was very successful with that by bringing a business in that required high-speed internet and was willing to help them implement that. So we can learn from some of those experiences and continue working.
If you wouldn't mind, could I just follow up since they both mentioned my name? Just
30 seconds.
Yeah, 30 seconds. I won't need 30 seconds. I think I answered the first part of that question, but how? The how part, Dorothy, I think I skipped. The how part is, I think, in working conjunction with the Economic Development Committee, if, as we go along, it's going to require an investment from the town of Boulder Junction, I am very much in favor of the town looking at being an investment partner in moving it forward if that's something that's a requirement as part of the grant process. So I want to make sure I point that out.
Next question, and this is yours first, Laura.
Okay.
The board has access to $4+ million that was approved for roads, yet could legally be redirected. How will you ensure that that redirection does not happen?
That goes to transparency of what we're doing in the town and being aware of how the money's being spent and why these transfers from one account to another are being made. And that's all of us should be watching that. Okay.
As Laura said, transparency is key. The public needs to be aware of what's happening at every level within our budget and within these funds that are segregated funds. As far as ensuring that they can't be used for anything, all a town board supervisor can do is make sure that the supervisor does not approve that when it comes up for a vote.
Well, I'll answer this since I'm one of the board members that has been involved in the work involved in getting to the point where we went and issued the bond to do the road project, a 2-year project. And I can assure you, if someone wants to question my personal integrity, that's fine, but I am absolutely committed to ensuring that the road program gets done on time and under budget if at all possible. And those funds, as far as I'm concerned, will only be used, and that's been my commitment from day one, that those funds would only be used for roads. And any innuendo or rumor otherwise to that is just flat out a bold-faced lie.
Okay, Jim, you're first up on this one. The new community building and the roads improvement were major projects that greatly improved our town. What are the projects you look forward to leading if you are elected? And how will they improve Boulder Junction for residents and visitors?
Improvement projects cost money. We are, at this point, in debt to a significant degree. So any improvements going forward will have to be by consensus of the town and referendum to and through budget adjustment. some visions I would have about improving our town here. And the first would be that we have a building that's in need of replacement. And at some point, we have to deal with doing something with our town garage. I think expansion of our bike trails would also be beneficial. Incorporating ATV traffic to the extent possible without infringing on other recreational opportunities would also be an important step. But we have to be careful when we talk about bricks and mortar, because right now we are in debt significantly and should not incur more debt at this time.
You ready? What are your views on the town ordinance codification?
I don't think I answered that question.
No,
We didn't
we
do
have
the other
two more
question.
answers coming.
Yep. So could you repeat that? I just heard the town ordinance thing, but just so
Yeah, you
it's
were
on,
looking at me
it's,
and
I think it's improvements.
I got the get on down the road message instead of the let's do with what we're doing message.
Yep.
The new community building and the roads improvement were
Okay.
major projects that greatly improved our town. What are the projects you look forward to leading if you are elected? And how will they improve Boulder Junction for residents and visitors?
One of the projects that I would envision, and I have talked about this before, is we recently acquired a 10.3 acre parcel that's just adjacent to this property right here from the DNR. And I believe we have entered into some discussions right now we lease the land where the ballpark is. I see that 10 acre parcel and the ballpark for future recreational use that we as a town should be looking at for the future development. That could be fat tire biking trails, it could be expansion of cross-country ski trails, any number of things. So we should be looking, that would be a long-range project. It would have to be approved by the electors. But I see that as an opportunity to expand tourism in the area with that significant piece of property that we own and lease right now. And perhaps if we twist a few ankles at the DNR, maybe we'll be able to buy that other piece of property too.
I have to agree with Jim in that we are in debt enough right now, and that, but I do believe the broadband is an issue that we need to resolve to help attract people that work from their home because they have the capabilities of internet. I think that's important. I think this town garage is very important. It's been on the topic for 8 to 10 years. It's needing repair and to work through that process. So those are both good ideas, and Denny's idea about the recreational area is fine. But I think our priority would be the garage and the broadband. Thank you.
Okay. Now, Denny,
Okay.
what are your views on the town ordinance codification?
Well, I was kind of the champion for the town codification. I struggled to get that item on the agenda countless times. And we finally were able to see that process through. We are in the process of going through the codification. I've been through several steps of it myself, having gone through all the ordinances and working with the people that are doing the codification. I think other priorities have kind of, we've bifurcated and gone off on a little bit of a different trail, but we need to re-engage and finish that project up because that would be of great benefit. But we're partway there. I don't exactly remember how much we have left, but we're almost finished, so.
Laura?
Would you repeat? Yeah.
Sure. What are your views on the town ordinance codification?
Okay. From what I gathered, because I went into the town office to look at the ordinances, they're scattered here and there. They're in the minute books, they're in the drawer, they're in the codification book. So the organization of those ordinances is important. I didn't know the status of it because I haven't heard a report in quite some time. So it's important to get those organized on the internet and possibly downloaded into a computer to keep them for, in case of there would be a fire or whatever. Thank you.
Well, I think that the process underway is essential. As Laura said, none of our ordinances are easily accessible. Often in the book that I went through, they're incomplete. There may be amendments missing. My question is the process we've gone through here and the elements of project management. I have the contract in front of me, and there's a general code codification process at a glance here. And I can see an entry for material review and organizational analysis. I can find evidence in the minutes that the organizational analysis took place. I then see 3 opportunities for client or town review and approval. I can find nothing in the minutes indicating that any report was made to the town and that no town approval took place at these. The last entry I can find in the minutes is 16 months ago, and no report has been documented since then.
Moving on to environmental resources. Laura, what will you do to protect our valuable resources, for example, lakes and forests, which support our economy and are the reason people come to Boulder Junction?
I think we have to work with the lakes associations here in town and with the DNR and be aware of what is going on in our environment. I think knowledge is important. Dick Jenks has been active in working with the Man Lake Association and working towards improving our lakes, and the information that we receive, they're doing the boat landings and different things. I think all that's important, and the more we know, the better off we'll be. And I think the town board needs to be involved and aware of it. And that's about it. Thanks.
Well, our natural resources are the reason people come here, and we do have to protect them. I think we have to continue to support the Clean Waters Act, or the Clean Waters actions taken, and combating invasive species, both aquatic and terrain. We also have to engage our partners in this, and those people who hold most responsibility for this, and that is the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources. We have to engage them to get their expertise. We have to engage them to let them know we're concerned and we want to be informed as to what's happening and how we may combat it. And I also want to give some kudos to our fire department, because one of the more devastating things that could happen to us is a very large wetland fire. Our fire department has responded, as other municipal fire departments have, very quickly and kept the fires small. The loss of our forest would impact our tourism for many years to come.
As an individual board member, it's really difficult to take on too much, but I would say since I've been working on the board with the other supervisor, chairman, we've had a very close working relationship with the Discovery Center. We've had the Gresham Lakes Association, we've worked closely with them. We've also worked with a number of other lakes associations, and I've been active in pursuing, as we work through the budgeting process, making sure that we are including budgeting dollars to support the efforts of these other people with their lakes associations, because it's really a joint effort, and I think I would suggest it as a board member, we continue in earnest what we've got started, and as we can afford more, we try to do as much as we can.
Okay, we're going to take a little jump here from natural resources to public services. Jim, you're up. How do you feel about public restrooms downtown?
Well, when I owned my business, the restrooms in the lobby of my motel were available to the public. So I'm in favor of public restrooms if they can be done in an economic fashion and maintainable, sustainable fashion. We do not have, as everyone knows, a municipal sewer system, so we would be dependent upon septic and holding tanks, and that could be problematic, but it's probably not an insolvable problem. So yes, I'm in favor of public restrooms. I do not know how to accomplish that at this point.
Well, boy, this has been a topic that's been kicked around this town for way longer than I've been around, but it is an important one. It needs to be addressed. I did sit in on a recent webinar with Destination Development Association. I was not here for it, but I'm a member of the DDA as well, so I did this seminar or webinar from home. There were some interesting things that I learned about public restrooms attract more than flies. And there's a number of options that they spoke of that I know the Economic Development Committee sat in on that as well. That was eye-opening to me. And I think we do have some property in town. We should be something, this is something that keeps coming up. It's something we're gonna need to take a look at, and we've gotta try to resolve it. I mean, because I've got people that are coming in, I've had snowmobilers in all season. Once my neighbors across the street close, they come into my place to use the bathroom. So it should be addressed.
I sat in on that webinar that where restrooms draw more than flies, and it was very informative. And it is something that we do need because people, if they feel comfortable, and they will shop in town and spend money in town and enjoy the area better if there are some public restrooms. Some of the businesses allow that in town, but it is important for the economic part of the community. And the Economic Development Committee viewed that webinar last week, and we got another one tomorrow. So if you get a chance, come to some of those webinars because they're very, very interesting. Thank you.
None of these issues are easy. Even the most basic decisions are controversial. So this next question relates to how you make the decisions. What do you see as the biggest concern for a 3-member board, and how do you plan to deal with that? Should it be a 5-member board?
Who's first? Denny.
Yep.
Denny.
Well, I can say that I would be in favor of maintaining a 3-person board for a couple of reasons. One in particular is it's, quite frankly, it's hard to find qualified candidates. And, but I think a town our size, a three-person board is more than adequate. There's some, and that's just my opinion. I don't see expanding it to 5 deriving any benefit whatsoever.
One more time.
What do you see as the biggest concern for a 3-member board? And how do you plan to deal with that? For instance, should it be a 5-member board?
The biggest difficulty with the three-member board is you can't just talk. It always has to be in a meeting. You can't discuss anything. It's always has to be in a meeting. But I think, hopefully, I get elected, but I would like to see what this next board can do before we even consider a 5-member board. I agree with Denny about qualifications and people willing to step forward. This year, we had 3 people step forward to be supervisors in addition to Denny. So it's often difficult to find the people that are willing to give the time. But I think if you give the time and you work hard and you have more town meetings that are public to discuss and plan and get feedback about what has happened in your discovery of whatever the issue is, that you will be more effective. Thank you.
I think Laura's comment was absolutely right. One of the disadvantages of a 3-person board is you can't just talk. But that is also a critical advantage of a 3-person board. Because when you do talk, it has to be in front of all of you. And it has to be part of a record that is verifiable and accessible. If you consider this question from a historical perspective, and older people like me really like to reference historical perspectives, this town has gone a good long time and functioned very well with a 3-person board. We have issues that have to be addressed. We have some degree of loss of public trust due to some recent events. But I think it would be in our best interest to continue with a 3-person board made up of people that you trust and capable people, and then evaluate that in another 2 years. If that's not working, then consider a change.
I'm good, out of respect for how long the candidates have been on the spot and how long you've been in your seats, I'm going to ask just 2 more questions, then we'll do the closing statements.
This is me now.
As a town supervisor, how do you plan to go about the budget preparation?
I think every monthly meeting, there should be an update of the budget as year-to-date to give us an idea if we are on task with different general ledger numbers, or we're ahead or we're behind. That will be part of the learning curve for all of us to stay on task for managing the budget and managing the processes. The budget hearings in the fall, when you sit and plan, it's just all of a sudden you've got to do it and learn everything. But if we do it throughout the year at our monthly meetings, I think we'll be more informed and be able to handle the budget in the fall much easier, and we'll know where we stand on a month-to-month basis. Thank you.
The budget hearings should be completely visible and should engage the public to the extent possible. Should also engage our partners in the budget, the various town agencies that we are either supporting or assisting in their support. We should be able to compromise, and we should be able to look for economies. I go through this budget process every year within the Sheriff's Department. I see the difficulties, I see the restraints and the problems associated with levy limits. And there are compromises that have to be made. But one thing I would ask is in the minutes of the budget hearings, that they be accurately reported and include actual numbers instead of just thoughts. As I look through the minutes of some of the more recent budget hearings, that I don't find quantifiable data within them.
Well, as somebody that's been involved in the budgeting process for 8 years, I must candidly disagree. Um, There's certain numbers you don't have until that time of the year where you can actually work on the budget. But in actuality too, the financial statement is published every month for our monthly meetings. And I, as a town supervisor, have always reviewed that financial statement on a monthly basis to know exactly where we are. All of our meetings are open to the public, and all those financial statements are open to the public. And every single budget hearing is a public meeting. We meet, and anybody that wants to come can come and sit in those meetings. It's like watching paint dry, but you're welcome to sit there. And I will also say, as far as the minutes, there's a lot of discussion that goes on in a budget meeting, and minutes are not a play-by-play. I've heard a lot about minutes tonight. Minutes are to be a synopsis, not a play-by-play. If you want a play-by-play, you can come and put your recorder on the table while we're doing it, and then you can go home and listen to it. Thanks.
I went to one of those paint dry school board meetings on Monday night, and I was looking at the agenda, and all of a sudden, I realized that in that agenda was a line item to approve $500,000, and then there was $300,000, and $600,000, and $60,000, and $10,000 for a boiler, and I'm just adding those up in my head and realized that, boy, these folks have the say-so over a big chunk of our taxpayers' dollars. So maybe we ought to pay attention and show up to those meetings. Enough said. This question will segue nicely into the closing statements, I think. And this will be Jim's to start with. In your view, what is the biggest challenge facing Boulder Junction today, and how would you propose solving it?
I think the biggest challenge facing us today is the issue that's on the table with some loss of faith in town government and some issues with transparency. And I've spoken a lot about that tonight, hoping not to offend anyone, but improvements can be made. And the improvements I see are the things that I've already discussed with proper agendas, proper minutes, encouraging public participation in meetings, engaging the public. So, you know, I think really that's the issue that's before us right now.
Okay, the single biggest issue facing the town of Boulder Junction?
And what you would do about it?
What I would do about it? Well, first of all, I think we have to be honest with each other. And it's been danced around all night here, but yes, in fact, the town board chose to plead guilty to violating an Open Meetings Act because we made a mistake. And we've corrected the mistake. That doesn't happen anymore. We don't go into meetings like that anymore. But there's a part of me now that says, we had a case. We could have fought that. We could have fought that. And it would have cost the town money. We made a decision not to go to court because it'd be easier. And we may have been vindicated. And there's a part of me now that says, I wish we would have gone to court. Because I'm tired of having people tell me they don't trust me. So, I mean, I'm up here running again, and I scratch my head and wonder why.
I agree with Jim that I think the issue is transparency and trust, and you need to be able to look at what the town board is doing and like looking through a window that's clean and see every aspect of what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how we're doing it. And it should be totally transparent. And I think for a lack of some of the discussions on some of the actions that have been taken, at least from my perspective, that made it difficult. And I think Jim alluded to trust, that's part of it. I think that could be improved with the things that I mentioned before, discussions in public, problem solving in public, doing research and reporting back in public. I think all of that would help. Thank you.
Okay, well, the moderator is supposed to have something wise to wrap things up, but I want the candidates to have the last word, so I'm going to say my wrap-up right now while they're getting a drink of water and composing their thoughts for their closing statements. And oh, by the way, I'm also going to exercise the moderator's prerogative of giving you each 2 minutes instead of 60 seconds, because you've all learned how fast that time flies when you're trying to put your thoughts together. So we appreciate your candidates' willingness to stand for public office and work on our behalf. All those days in between elections. We recognize that candidates for local office may not be professionally coached, highly groomed politicians like we see on TV. You are our neighbors who are offering to serve us. Thank you. You have done very well tonight presenting yourselves. I want to say to Zach and Mason and Elsa, are any of you 18 yet? Elsa, if you are not registered to vote, we would be happy to assist you to register before you leave tonight. And Zach and Mason, register to vote on your birthday, on your 18th birthday. All you have to do, and spread the word, is go to your computers or your phone, which you always have, type "my vote" into the browser. That will take you to the Wisconsin government official website where you can register to vote. You can do it online. Just got to have your driver's license number, your address, and you can be registered to vote. I was going to say 5 minutes, but in registering high school students, I have noticed it takes them about 1 to 3 minutes. While I'm explaining the opening screen, they've moved 5 steps down the line, they've signed it, they push the print button, it prints in the library, they get an email about it, and so will you do that for us? Okay? And I hope, we're not going to live that much longer. And we're trying to pass things on to you folks and hoping you'll accept the torch. And I hope by just being in the periphery, not on the spot, but watching how things go tonight, you're thinking about how local government can ensure that your town and the place you want to live and the place you want your family to thrive can thrive. And I think this is a pretty impressive demonstration of how that's done. Close to home. In a political environment in which decision-making is becoming more remote and being thrust upon citizens by faraway lawmakers and bureaucrats, it's refreshing to know that grassroots local leadership remains strong in Wisconsin's town governments. And can we give a hand to that effect before we do our closing statement? Very well. Denny, your closing statement.
I prepared a few comments here because as an Irishman, I have a bit of a gift of gab, and if you let me go on off script here, it's not going to be too good. So, just dovetailing on the biggest issue facing the town of Boulder Junction moving forward. We talked about that in the last question. The town is extremely divided, and it has been, and I've watched this town in the 8 years that I've served in this community. It's become even more and more divided. And it troubles me. And I really did think twice about running for election this time. And, you know, I'm a firm believer in term limits, but we hadn't quite finished what we got started with the road project, and I wanted to see it through. And I'm on the road committee, so I will see it through one way or the other. But I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to serve the town of Boulder Junction for the past 8 years. I've enjoyed the work and the progress we have collectively made. It seems at times that the past 8 years has been a journey of dragging a backwoods thinking out of the woods and driving an effort to move the town into the 21st century. We've accomplished much, but there's more to do. We all have the power to change the way we as a nation, a society, a small town, speak to one another. We can change our national and local discourse for the better. What we read online, in newspapers, see on TV, hear on the radio, here in a local bar or a coffee shop, we have the power to change it. Oftentimes, our day-to-day lives are spent in fast forward. I would like to challenge everyone in our community to engage and use the pause button and change the channel in our communication. Pause and change it from criticism and fault-finding to understanding and compassion. Pause and change it from name-calling and dishonesty to acceptance and openness. Pause before you report or pass along something you heard but you don't know is absolutely true. A lie isn't true just because more than one person heard it. Pause before you propagate untrue and inflammatory information that make it difficult for people in leadership or elected positions and their families to step up and lead. We have a great community and town, and we have the ability and fortitude to be much better. So please take the time to hit the pause button and think before you speak and act. I've enjoyed this community and look forward to the opportunity to serve you more. Please vote for me on April 2nd.
Laura, and I'll let you fudge on the 2 minutes too.
Okay.
Thank you for the extension.
Well, I am so grateful that we live in a community like Boulder Junction, where we all enjoy the beauty of the North Woods, the rivers, the lakes, the trails. I am truly grateful for your support and interest tonight in our local government. I am blessed to be in a town filled with people who care about each other and through volunteering, helping our area organization like the Lions, the Lioness, the Legion, among others, to give back to this community. I truly believe I can make a difference in greater transparency for the town. Teamwork is important to accomplish objectives, and I believe that Jim and I balance each other with strengths and experience. What I lack in, he may have, and what he lacks in, I may have. I'm excited for the opportunity to serve this community and ask for your vote on April 2nd. Please exercise your right to vote. We need to consider the big picture that we talked about recently. It's not about one issue. We'll work through whatever the issues are, but we just need to work through it together. I am excited I said that. Thank you for attending tonight and for taking time out of your busy schedules to listen and to participate. Thank you again to the League of Women's Voters and to Sherry Sanderson, who invited them. And thank you for coming.
Well, I hope to give the sign holder a break here and a little less exercise. First of all, I agree with much of what Laura said, especially about our abilities and our qualifications being complementary. I think that's very true. I said something about voting in a town meeting probably 8 or 9 years ago. And that is that voting is a privilege in this country, but in a town such as ours, it's a rare privilege. Because not only do you get to pick your leadership, but you get to choose from people you know and have had contact with. And you can make an informed choice. It may not make your choice easier, but it gives you a basis for comparison. Dennis is right. This town, in my experience, has never agreed on anything. However, if they have trust in the process, and if they've been part of the process and they've been engaged, when a decision is made, they generally support it. Not everyone, but the majority will support it, and they will go down that path. We've had lack of action on some key issues, and some of those we hit on tonight. And part of that, I think, is due to process. I just wanted to take a moment and describe the process I will use for making a decision. And that any decision I make will be based in fact and not on unsupported opinion. I've already given the sign order exercise. It will be visible to the public. It will be open to the public, and it will encourage consensus to the extent possible. Everyone up here has professional qualifications. Everyone up here can do this job. What I will offer you at this time is a commitment to professional conduct.
Well said, well done, each of you. So let's just give one more hand to the candidates and to the audience and to the library. And be on our way. Drive safe. Good evening.